Today I'm ranking my worst Sony/Fox Marvel film. Coming at number 5 is the original Daredevil with Ben Affleck. See, I don't really like Ben Affleck, and this role just left a bad taste in my mouth. The CGI is awful, the fight scenes are so poorly choreographed and are hard to stomach and watch. The dialogue is just so cringe-inducing. I guarantee Jon Favreau, who actually makes an appearance in the film, was taking notes on what not to do on the set, because he probably saw this and went, okay, this looks so shit. And Colin Farrell, yes, was definitely a bright little stone in this film because he was very funny. Bullseye, huh? And he brought a bit of humor to the film, made me chuckle for those parts, but the rest of the film made me chuckle as well, but not in the way I was supposed to, because it was supposed to be serious, but it wasn't. Like, who would go into a park and start beating up a blind man? Like, let's move on. Number 4. Fan 4 Stick. Awful title, not a good start. This trailer looked promising before the film's released, but as the film came out, it was an hour and a half of just complete boredom. Nothing happens. An hour into the film is when they finally get their powers. They don't spend a lot of time together, so there's no team building or connection. No one smiles either. Everyone looks like they're miserable on set. And they had such a great lineup of Michael B. Jordan, Miles Teller, and they were just completely wasted in this film. And the film's director even came out and said this was not the image I had for this film. It was a lot of wrestling with the studio, and the film was not the piece that I set out to make. And that alone should have made everyone run away from the theater. But for those of us that did see it, instead of feeling like 90 minutes, it felt like 150 minutes. Number 3, Madam Web. You're probably wondering why this isn't like a number 1 or 2, because I actually could not stop laughing during this film. It probably didn't help that I went with 2 friends. We were crying with laughter in this film, and that brought this film, I think, a little bit down, trickled a bit down on this list. Dakota Johnson lied her agent as this film came out. She looked like she was half asleep. The other 3 girls were complete stereotypes, one-note characters. You know, you got the geek, the rule breaker, and the attractive one that gets them to dance on the tables in front of those guys, because, you know, feminism. I really don't know what this film is trying to be. I forget there is even an evil Spider-Man villain in this film. Like, I think we all forget about it. He is so forgettable. He sticks to the walls and he runs and everything, and he's barefoot. I understand, and I read afterwards that's from the comics, but it just looks silly, goofy. Even the concept of her going back in time to try and redo things, it's just so poorly edited and executed. I just felt dizzy, and it was so loud at parts, and then the camera does these weird spins, just an absolute mind melt. Do not watch this unless you are planning to have a high amount of alcohol and you're with a group of friends who are ready to have an absolute cackle laugh at poking holes in this absolute dumpster fire of a film. Number 2, Dark Phoenix. I know what you're all saying, Dark Phoenix is number 2, no way, as if you do that, but hear me out. This film really struck a nerve for me. I've always been a big fan of the X-Men. I even went and saw X-Men Apocalypse and came out and defended it to everyone. I said, no, look, it had good moments, sure. It was a bit dragged on and the storylines that kind of went nowhere, but hey, it was still a pretty good film. We saw the X-Men use their powers. Magneto was great. James McAvoy was great. Jennifer Lawrence, like, great cast. And I defended that film, and then I saw this. And it was just complete shite the whole way through. Even though Jean already had the Phoenix powers, she gets them again in space, which is probably the only kind of enjoyable scene where you see the X-Men saving people. Jean goes crazy, destroys 2 cop cars, the government decides to kill all mutants, execute them all. Charles is all wimpy, and he kind of like neglects her as a child. He doesn't help her through the trauma, he just suppresses it, and I'm just completely destroying the character. Then the aliens come out of nowhere, and they're just there. They're there. We don't know what they do, or what they do this weird thing, killing Jean's father, and they attack at a train at the end. And sure, they use their powers, and there's a bit going on. You could arguably say, yes, this was better than Madam Web, and it had more happening in it, but this just hit me so hard being a big X-Men film, and it just offended me on how bad it was. Upset this was the ending for the Fox X-Men, and in hindsight, I wish they just stopped at X-Men Days of Future Past. Number 1, Morbius. Thank you, Jared Leto, for wasting your money in funding this project. And let's talk about the acting here. Jared Leto's one-note acting, so dull. You couldn't ask for anything worse. And then they hire Tyrese Gibson to be a serious cop of some sorts, and he was just like, he doesn't have the acting chops for a role like this. State of Fast and Furious. The guy from the House of the Dragon, can't remember the name off the top of his head. Yes, he had that one dance scene in the bathroom where he's doing the push-ups and went viral, and it was funny. But the rest of the movie is just one big boring shit show of nothing interesting happening. I couldn't tell you how bored I was. I didn't buy that Milo and Morbius had this connection at children, even though he saves him as a kid. It's just all super rushed, I didn't buy into any of it, and then they have a fallout straight away because he doesn't give it to Milo, and then he has it off screen. Like, we don't see these things happen off screen. We're just supposed to know what's going on. So dumb, so dull, boring. The fight scenes and the CGI were painful to watch. You couldn't even tell what was going on. Where did the money go into? Did they get the seat? I don't even think they could get university students to do something this bad. Absolute train wreck, and it is by far my #1 pick as the worst Sony Fox Marvel film. Comment down below your list and your #1. I'd love to hear it. It might be another film that I've kind of overlooked, but I'll be interested to see. Even comment down below your top 5. Love to read them. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that rubbish. And yeah, that's going to start the video. I'll see you on the next one. Mwah.